Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Muscle Foundry. This is going to be hopefully the first of many videos on the channel, and this one is going to be aimed at total beginners. Perhaps you haven't set foot in the gym before, perhaps you have, but a long time ago, and you want to just improve your health, your well-being, perhaps get a little bit stronger, a little bit leaner, and just overall feel good in yourself. Now, I know that there is a lot of conflicting information when it comes to different diet models, workout programs, and some people have the misconception that they need to train like Arnold Schwarzenegger, dedicating days of the week, perhaps 6 or 7 days, going to the gym twice a day and just working out hours and hours at a time, and punishing themselves with, well, quite frankly, meals that just don't taste very good and are very bland. Now, the good news is that you can, as a complete beginner, make some pretty profound changes to your body with only some small tweaks. Go to the gym a couple of days a week, make some tweaks to your diet, for example, dropping out full sugar soda with diet soda, improving your sleep, and other things that we're going to be talking about in this video. This video is also an article. You can check it out completely for free. There is no sign up or any of that stuff required. You just simply click and you can read it. So if you do prefer the written word, then by all means you can check that out. Now, if you don't know who I am, I'm Paul. Hi. I also run another YouTube channel, which is Red Gaming Tech. And that channel, it focuses mostly on PC and gaming technology, but my other passion is definitely the gym and health and fitness. And quite frankly, it has been something that has really, well, given me a great outlet for stress, and it's just nice to go to the gym and work out. With that said, I have had a lot of viewers on my other channel, as well as friends in real life, well, the little bit I actually go out in real life, who have been asking for some general advice on where to begin. When it comes to improving your health, a big mistake I see tons of people make is they feel that they need to do everything right away and they want results immediately. This is not the best mindset. I want you to think of this more how you would approach improving any skill, whether that's anything from a physical sport or whether that's, say, improving your skills at a job or at school, whatever. As you're learning a subject, for example, you don't expect to just become an immediate expert. You realize that it's going to take some time. Basically, small steps when it comes to fitness are going to lead you to long-term improvements in your health. You don't want to feel like you're punishing yourself here. This is an augmentation to your life. It's an improvement to your health. It isn't something that going to the gym, for example, is going to be like a punishment that you're inflicting upon yourself. Instead, you should feel good about it. You should feel good about saying, hey, you know what? I actually feel a little bit stronger today. Or, hey, I walked, X amount of steps and I don't feel tired. I feel actually pretty damn great. And that to me is a really good thing. It's not about just looking good in the mirror. It's just about feeling good in yourself. So let's begin with what I consider to be the big rocks. Now, as a beginner, you're quite lucky actually. You're in a really good position because as a beginner, you can make some really big changes to your body without really putting tons of effort in. Essentially, your body is primed to put on tons of muscle, reduce fat, without really needing to go to the well. Again, you don't need to train ridiculously hard in the gym because just putting a little bit of stimulus on your muscle and you're going to be like, holy crap, after 6 months, I'm like double as strong as I used to be. This is cool. But with that said, let's get into some of the big rocks. So first is sleep. Yes, I know sleep is a cliche thing to say, but I would be basically negligent if I didn't mention it. Now, some people can say that they, get along with 5 hours sleep or what have you. Honestly speaking, I found pretty much anyone improves their health considerably when they start to go to like 7 or 8 hours. And also, the thing of sleep debt is that you can't just sometimes make up for it, but like, oh, you know what, I slept like 4 hours every night during the week, and now over the weekend I'm going to get like 10 hours. Your body, it does repair during the night, and there's a ton of benefits for getting good sleep. I'll leave you guys to Google that, but ultimately, it improves your health of your brain, it improves the recovery of your muscle, and just a ton of other stuff. It's really important. So again, try to prioritize sleep as best as you can. I know it's not necessarily easy if you have kids and other responsibilities, but do anything you can, even if it's getting a nap during the day, if at all possible. Next up are small tweaks to your diet. Now, again, you don't need to eat perfectly to begin with. if you've, been eating the standard typical Western diet, you can make some pretty big, meaningful changes by just cutting out a few treats here or there and making some substitutions. Example, let's say that you're having Coca-Cola, the regular cans, I think, for 330 ml, around 130, 140 calories. And obviously different drinks will have different calories, but if you make a substitution to like Coke Zero, you're going to be saving those calories. Now, I know there are some people who don't like aspartame and so on, but honestly, in my personal opinion, losing the fat is probably going to net you a better benefit than the risks of like aspartame in the future. That's my personal opinion. If you feel differently, more power to you. But imagine if you have like just 1 or 2 cans a week, how many calories alone that is that you're saving. And again, you can make some other changes and substitutions. Basically, you don't want to just go from like 0 to 100 on your diet, just making a few tweaks here or there, being like, hey, you know what? I'm going to like change the, meats perhaps I have a couple of times a week, and I'm going to go with maybe some leaner cuts. So maybe you start to eat fewer sausages and go with like, leaner chicken breasts, whatever your diet is. Now, this exact specifics of diet, I'm going to cover more in another video because that is a pretty big topic. And again, I want to go through the basics in this video just so you've got a pretty good building block that you can use going forward. And the next and the other obvious big one is improving your physical activity. Now, in terms of the gym, a couple of sessions a week, let's say you go Tuesday and a Sunday, or whatever the split works for you, and you lift around 45 minutes per session. We'll get into the specifics of the program in a moment. That is absolutely brilliant for a beginner, and you could do an lower body split, and you can make some really good progress. Again, you don't need to kill yourself at the gym. You don't need to feel like you've absolutely broken your body. Just making some pretty, small improvements over time, and you're going to feel so much stronger. You can also go 3 days a week if you feel that you're ready for that and you want to do that. And perhaps you've already had some level of physical activity. Maybe you go bike riding with your friends. Maybe you play a sport like tennis or what have you. So you feel perhaps a little more confident. But if that isn't the case, you don't have the time, just a couple of days a week can make big changes. You can also improve your physical activity by just walking. Now, as you probably can tell with my accent, I live in the UK, London specifically, so that means that I am blessed, i.e. cursed, with needing to take things like the underground quite frequently. So maybe I'll get off a stop earlier if I feel that I'm a little bit behind on the cardio that day. And that can net me like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 steps. Again, it's not always something that you could do. If you drive, for example, to work in the US, I know the distances are absolutely massive. You can't just be like, yo, you know what, I'm going to park like, a couple of miles down the road. Sometimes that isn't going to work for you guys. I understand that totally. So if that is the case, then you can do other things. Maybe go for a 10-minute walk on your lunch break, walk around the office, do whatever you need to do. But again, I really want to stress, I sound like a broken record, but I really want to stress this. You do not need to go from being pretty much a couch potato to going to the gym 7 days a week, running a marathon every weekend. It is not something that you're going to want to do. You're not going to sustain it over time, at least for the majority of people. I mean, if you can and you feel like you will do that, my God, all the power to you in the world. But most people can't do that. So really advocate, as a beginner, you learn how to do things like squats, deadlifts, overhead presses and so on. The reason, because you are only going to be going, at least I'm presuming, 2 to 3 days a week. So what you want to do is build as much bang for buck as possible. With that said, some people do have injuries. For example, maybe you've had like a bum knee or what have you, and squatting, it just doesn't feel good. That is absolutely okay. There is no problem. There's no wrong answers. If that's the case, substitute. For example, you can switch to a leg press or what have you. We'll get into the exercise specifics in just a moment, but as a beginner, I really want to stress, form is the most important thing. Weight, that comes later. You can go ahead and like lift crazy weights and be like super strong. Blah, blah, blah. That's cool, but don't do that initially. You don't want to impress people. Honestly, I see a lot of beginners, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, especially younger guys, and they are lifting weights that they just are not able to control. And it's like, if the weight is just going like this when you're trying to do reps because you physically are doing like half a rep, you're like, okay, and you're trying to show off to your buddy John, no one else in the gym is impressed. What is impressive is controlling the weight, having good form, not risking injury. That is really important. You're going to make so much better progress over time by learning good form. So you're squeezing the muscle, you've got time under tension. Again, I'll go into this perhaps a lot deeper in another video, but for now, just know the basics. You want to be able to shoot between 8 to 12 reps where it's challenging, and to stress the word challenging, it feels like you are physically putting in effort, but after around 12 reps, you could maybe do a few more, but at that point, form is going to start to break down. Don't go any past that. You don't want your form to start breaking down. The reason? Because 1, you're going to start to just risk injury, especially as a beginner. 2, you don't need to go crazy as a beginner because your muscles are so primed to building strength. And 3, you're going to learn bad movement patterns. There's some host of other crap that, quite frankly, is outside of the scope of this video. Ignore it as a beginner. If you've only been training for less than 6 months, most of this stuff, again, doesn't apply to you. In the future, you can learn more. You can certainly delve into it more. But again, I want this to be as accessible as possible for many people. So 8 to 12 reps, good form. Now, as a beginner, I would recommend one of 2 different splits. The first is a 2-day-a-week split, upper and lower, or you can also do a 3-day-a-week split, which is known as push-pull legs. Now, you can certainly do other variations of this in the future. Some people might do full body workout twice a day. And again, if that's what you prefer, that is absolutely fine. But for me, I found that push-pull legs or upper and lower split work really well for beginners because it adds a little bit of variety. The time to actually complete the exercises isn't too much. Roughly speaking, around 35 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on the exercises you're doing, how much time you need to wait for equipment, if you need to do setting up, and so on and so on. And I think that that is pretty sustainable for most people. As a bonus, if you want to, you can also add some additional cardio. I would generally add the cardio after weights. What cardio? Again, there's no wrong choices here. You can do anything from rowing to walking on a treadmill. I personally do a lot of treadmill stuff, usually incline, but again, that's just my personal preference. You can do stairs, you could do elliptical. Again, try out different things, whatever feels good for you. If, for example, you find that, you know what, the treadmill's kind of hurting my ankles, or I don't like the stairs, whatever, just do something else. Basically, you're just trying to get your body moving. You don't need to do the cardio at the gym. If you're someone who, for example, is also maybe their friend, or maybe you've got a family and you want to start going on bike rides a couple of times a week, whatever, again, there is no wrong answer. Just get additional movement in. Whatever feels good for you is important, and you just want to slowly build up. So let's get into the exercises, shall we? I'm going to read this off. Again, all of this is on the website, so if you do prefer the printed form, don't worry about screenshotting it. But I'm going to start with lower body. So that's quads, hamstrings, glutes, and calves. So this is going to work your legs and just make them look good. So you can do either squats or leg presses. You can do deadlifts. You can do seated leg extensions, seated leg or lying leg curls, calf presses. And then again, you can do cardio. For the upper body, flat dumbbell bench press, or you can use a chest press machine, whatever you feel comfortable. Seated shoulder dumbbell presses, or a shoulder press machine, again, whichever you prefer. Some type of dip, you can use an assisted one, most likely you're probably going to have to do that at the beginning. A lat pull down machine, I would suggest a neutral grip, and then some type of row. You can use a dumbbell, or you can use a machine row. I think either is absolutely fine. And again, you can add some cardio in after that if you feel like you need to. Push, pull legs. So with push, it's working your shoulders, your chest, as well as your triceps. Pull will be your back and your biceps, and legs will be quads, hamstring, and calves. I'm not going to read out all of the exercises here, but I've given you an alternative version. For example, in push, you can do bench press, or you can do the dumbbell press, or you can do the machine press, whichever you feel comfortable with. And you could do either the cable fly or a dumbbell fly. Again, whichever you feel is better for you. So how do you start to progress? Well, let's say that initially you're choosing a weight where you can do, let's say 10 reps with good form, let's say on a chest press. Let's say you're doing 20-pound dumbbells. And after a couple of weeks, you're like, you know what? I've got the form down. My arms don't feel shaky. I feel really good. Add a little bit of weight. Maybe go for like the 22 pounds, whatever you feel comfortable with. Same thing for if you're doing a machine. If the pin is at whatever weight, it doesn't matter. Just go maybe the next one down. And again, slowly progress over time. You don't need to rush. You can also go for an additional rep. So perhaps if the weight, you don't want to go up the weight quite yet, you can just instead go for another rep. Maybe reduce rest times, whatever feels good for you. As for rest time, it varies. If you're doing something like a squat, you may need a little bit longer, especially if you're a beginner, or you're really kind of pushing yourself. Maybe you may need like 2-3 minutes to rest between sets. On the other hand, if it's something like a dumbbell curl, maybe like a minute or something like that. So you could even do like one arm, then another arm, rest 30 seconds, do one arm, then the other arm, and so on and so on. Now, I do want to mention diet just briefly in this video, but again, I'm going to get a lot more specific about it in future videos. There is a lot to talk about with food and strategies around eating. One of them, for example, would be to reduce calories on certain days. For example, if you're going to have a fairly sedentary day, you can reduce calories a little bit. On heavy workout days, you can bump the calories, and you can track what you're eating over, let's say, a couple of weeks with an application. You can use like MyFitnessPal, Chronometer, what have you. That's not sponsored. I'm not being paid for that. I'm just giving an example. I personally use Chronometer, and I weigh my foods and stuff like that, but many of them have the information on the packet anyway. Again, you probably don't need to worry about this as an absolute beginner. I would personally, instead, as a beginner, at least for the first couple of months, just be more mindful of what you're putting in your gob. Again, to go back to the diet soda, switch that, for example, if you've been drinking regular soda. Look at packets and look at how many calories something has, and you could start to make better decisions. Maybe, for example, if you're having ketchup, you go with the reduced sugar version, and so on and so on. Again, small changes do make a big difference, especially as you're adding additional cardio, additional weightlifting. Anyway, you're going to start to notice that you're going to make a lot of progress. Recommended amount of protein if you're lifting and becoming stronger does vary. There are a lot of studies that will say different things based on your goals. Anything from 0.5 gram per pound of body weight. So if you weigh like 200 pounds, that would be like 100. I personally feel that's a little bit low. That's my personal opinion. I personally would recommend at least 0.6 or 0.7. So that'd be like, say, 120 to 140-ish grams as like a good starting point if you weigh 200. If you're trying to build a lot of muscle and you're like really lifting heavily, you can go to like 1 gram to like 1.2 or 1.5 grams. Again, it's going to be very much dependent on you. I would just recommend make sure that you're getting a decent amount of protein, so that you are recovering, because ultimately protein, of course, is going to help repair your muscle. Now, I am a dirty carnivore, so I can't be as helpful if you are a vegan. I'm sure that there are tons of good resources that you guys have access to. The problem is with a lot of vegan foods, and I speak very generally here, many of them do have great taste. However, the problem is many of them also have either incomplete proteins. Not all of this is not always the case, and I'm sure someone's going to comment and give some great protein suggestions if they are vegan, and please do, by the way. Again, I'm not so educated in this, so if you have some great suggestions, add it in the comments below. But vegan foods, especially treats and stuff like that, they can be very loaded with sugar. If you are, however, like myself, a dirty carnivore, then obviously the cliche chicken breast is obviously a really good idea. You can also go with ground turkey. I know that's pretty popular in the US, and quite frankly, I quite enjoy it as well. It's a little more expensive, I think, in the UK, but that's besides the point. Ground beef is pretty good, especially if you go with the leaner versions. Certain steak cuts, Of course, that's going to depend on the steak variant and so on and so forth. And basically just be kind of mindful. Basically, if it's highly processed and has a crap ton of fats in it and just like probably been scraped off of the floor and then thrown into a sausage, probably not the best option. As for carbohydrates, there's nothing wrong with eating gluten, unless you're me and you're somewhat intolerant to it. And by somewhat intolerant, I mean I'm basically done for the next couple of days. So, that is also another point. I have a lot of allergies, and I will probably talk about this in another video. I actually didn't realize how many things I was allergic to be honest with you. And like, it was wrecking me. Like, I felt like I was in the ring, like with Muhammad Ali, Tyson, Bruce Lee. Everyone was just like taking their turns on my, because I was getting busted. It's like, dude, not good. I won't go into the specifics, but, yeah, I was getting like acne. I was like getting bloating. Let's just say it wasn't good. And what really improved me, honestly, was just like starting to cut things out. For the record, I follow, roughly speaking, Stan Efferding's vertical diet. Again, I'm not being paid for that. This is just genuinely what I do. I do make some changes to his stuff. I personally wouldn't do that. Like, I would have bread or whatever if I could, but believe me, it's not a good idea, especially for those around me. If you do have problems with digestion, and not everyone does, so if you're someone who deals with bread or what have you, absolutely great. I mean, the only problem with bread is it does have a lot of calories per slice. You can get around that. Certain breads are a lot better. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's like Ezekiel bread or something like that. And it's really good for you. And so on, sprouted grains, they're pretty damn good. But, yeah, I don't want to get too deep into this in this video. There's a lot to talk about, but, as I said, I will be covering this more in a future video. And that's just about it. If you have enjoyed this video, subscribe, and, I'll be putting out a lot more content. I'm aiming for 1 to 2 videos a week, obviously on top of my main channel. Ultimately, my whole goal with this is just to talk about my passions and health, and it's going to be going a lot deeper into a lot of different topics, whether that's mental health, whether that's like, well-being and all of this stuff. But this is going to be the first of many videos. I'll also be talking about how to get jacked and strong and a bunch of other stuff. But hopefully I'll also be doing some collaborations. I have a friend who's a personal trainer, so he will be on the channel, and we're just going to be doing a bunch of cool stuff. But anyway, guys, take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Bye for now.